behalf of Calverton National Cemetery, condolences to the family. At this time, the United States Army.
On behalf of the President of the United States Army, and a grateful nation, please accept this flag as a symbol of our appreciation for your loved one's honorable and faithful service.
the presence of death, we turn instinctively to others for comfort and strength. And it is given a warm hand clasp, a quiet word, a gracious deed. The very fact that you are here are ways of saying in times of grief that we care. We all have suffered, or will someday suffer, sorrow and loss. Today we offer companionship and support. You do not walk the way of sadness alone. In this hour, your thoughts are turning to Norman's life. Memory can be kind and gratitude way of thankful one for has departed, but who has left a rich heritage for all who lived with him. And now, my chamber, please come forward. There's a poem to read for Norman.
I found this poem and I want to read it to honor Dad in loving memory of a very dear Dad. There are so many things I wish I said or done, but sadly can never do now that you are gone. But I want you to know, though you are out of sight, you will always be in my heart. I want you to know that. I'll always cherish you. I'll always love you. And I will always remember you. You are too precious to ever be forgotten, and too priceless to ever be replaced. You are one in a million, Dad, and you will always be the precious and unique Dad I cared for so dearly. Forever will you live on in my heart and mind. Forever will you live on in my thoughts and never die. And until that day when we shall meet again, I'll continue to cherish all my memories of you. I love you, Dad.
I would invite Kevin Conley from the podium.
10 years as a Toastmaster doesn't really prepare you to have to make this speech. My biggest fear is that if I cry, the tears will freeze on my face. How do you sum up a wonderful life that lasted over 90 years? So many experiences go into making you the person that you are. And you can have a lot of experiences in 90 years. In the summer of 2019, when Mom had her hip replacement, Deb and I spent a lot of time helping out and spending time with them. When you spend that much time with someone, you really learn a lot. Like, I knew Dad was organized, but I had no idea how organized he was. He was a living example of a place for everything and everything in its place. And God help you if you moved anything in the refrigerator. Over the last 6 months, as Dad's health declined, I was glad I had the opportunity to spend so much time with him, helping out and just sitting down and talking. I was able to learn so many things that I didn't know. I mean, you know, there are things we all know that he liked, like his root beer, his Klondike bars, his favorite candy, halva. He loved watching Western movies, and music by Buddy Clark and Eddie Arnold. But we really had some time to talk about memories he had growing up. I remember once, and I shared it with Dad, when I was 10 years old, we had to go into Brooklyn for something, and it was just me and him in the car. I think it was one of the few times in his life that we went to the unemployment office, because most of the time he worked 2 or 3 jobs to make sure we were provided for. After we left and did what we needed to do, we drove around Brooklyn. And almost every block we went down, Dad said, I lived here. Oh, we lived here for a while. Oh, we lived here too. And I realized that, you know, maybe Dad's family was always one step ahead of the bill collector. I always heard stories about the candy store that the family owned, and the time that Dad's mom and Dad went away on a trip and left them with some emergency money in case they needed anything. Well, he and his brother and sister spent all the money at the candy store. Well, I mean, you know, after all, eating candy and having a Brooklyn egg cream, that qualifies as an emergency. I didn't know that the family also owned a newsstand next to the Halsey Street entrance of the subway. And that was a surprise, because for 4 years when I went to Xavier High School, I stopped at that station every day on my way to high school. He also told me about going to the movies when he was young, and he remembered it was the Comet Theater. I looked it up. It was on Reed Street and Gates Avenue, and it seated 600 people, because in those days, people really loved their movies. Dad told me for 10 cents, you saw a double feature, a cartoon, a newsreel, an episode of a movie serial, a comedy short, and then after spending the whole day at the movies, you had a chance to win some prizes too. In his last few months, Dad spent a lot of time watching Turner Classic Movies. He wanted me to tell him when the musicals were on, so I would call the night before and let him tape them. And he watched Fred Astaire and Gene Kelly. I think he was remembering all the fun times he had at the Comet Theater. So many experiences go into making you the person you are, but my favorite is the fact that I can tell you an exact date and location where my dad was. I know that when my dad was 14, on August 13th, 1944, that he was at Coney Island's Luna Amusement Park, because that's the day a fire broke out and burned the park to the ground. And he always told me that he remembered being there on that day. Oh, he also denied having anything to do with it. Dad was also a country music fan, and growing up we always had albums by Johnny Cash and Eddie Arnold and Charlie Pride. And I always thought Dad got this from his father, because his father was a truck driver, and I just assumed the truck driver listened to country music. And I asked him that, and he said, no. When I was in the Korean War, the group that I was assigned with, I was the only one from Brooklyn. Everybody else was from the South, and they always played country music. And that's when Dad learned to love country music. I'll always cherish all these stories and all these beautiful old pictures, a constant reminder of a full, rich life. A kind and gentle man. Those are the two words that everyone used to describe as they came to console us. And I have to agree. I can't remember too many times growing up that he ever raised his voice, yelled at us, or reprimanded us. He left all the really good beatings to Mom. A friend from work said to me, I didn't know your father, but if you're any reflection of him, then he must have been an amazing man. And I realized then, that's how Dad is going to live forever. Because he's a part of all of us, in our hearts and souls, and all the people that knew him. We're all better people for having had that opportunity.
I'd like to say something.
Go ahead, Francis. I got it. Cool.
It's the story you probably all know. The story of the new car. One year he came to me over 30 years ago and he said, I want to buy you a mink coat. I said, where are you going to get money to buy me a mink coat? He says, don't you worry about it. It's going to be a Christmas gift. Come on, we're going to Macy's. And we went off to Macy's and he told the lady, bring out full-length mink coats for me. Well, I put full-length mink coats and I'm kind of short. And I looked in the mirror and I said, Norman, I look like a teddy bear. I can't carry this off. He was a little disappointed. I said, well, let's go for something shorter. And she brought them out and I said, we can't afford this. It's $3,000. And he said, don't you worry about it. I've been saving my allowance and I've been doing extra jobs at Pace and saving all these years. I want you to have a mink coat. I love you. Thank you.
Did anybody else have anything they want to share about Norman? Any kind words? Is it okay if I finish with a poem? Is that be okay?
Thank you.
This poem was called The Measure of a Man. Not how did he die, but how did he live? Not what did he gain, but what did he give? These are the things that measure the worth. of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Not what was his church, not what was his creed, but he had befriended those really in need. His strength for his children, his love for his wife. These are the units that measure a life. Not what was his station, but he had a heart. And how did he play his own special part? Was he ever ready with a word of good cheer to bring back a smile, to banish a tear? Not what did the words in the newspaper say, but how many will miss him now he's passed away. These are the things that measure the worth of a man as a man, regardless of birth. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes the services for Norman. Each and every one of you has received a flower. I'd now like to invite everybody to kindly come forward and place that flower at Norman as a symbol of your unending love. Francis, you can stay. We're going to begin with friends and family seated towards the rear. We have the rear come first. We'll be the last one. Place the flower at Norman. Thank you. Great.